First of all, I was very, very pleased and intrigued that this mother is a pearl of wisdom. And a pearl of wisdom is you only ever focus on this one thing, and it actually can create a world that works for everyone. So, with mother being a pearl of wisdom, first of all, I got to do a deep dive on. It isn't about the persona or the person that our mother is. There has to be something deeper in terms of understanding this whole concept, even of mother, before we look at the 7 forms. And as I inquired into it and went deeper into it, what I got was that it is a vibration. So it's a vibe, it's a mother vibe. And that vibration of a mother exists in each one of us, whether or not we are a mother in terms of having children or not, regardless of what gender we are. It's a vibration that is real for all of us. I also saw something else, which is very interesting, which is that we birth ourselves every single day. And that makes us our own mother. If the role of the mother is birthing, then we birth ourselves every single day. And we can give our power away to other things, but we are the ones that make choices. And every day is a new day, and it is a rebirthing opportunity for us. We do birth ourselves, and we can take it as a rebirth every single day. Now, if we birth ourselves every single day, it also means we are like a newborn child every single day. And there are a couple of things that got me super excited about that concept. Firstly, when you look at a newborn child, a newborn baby, regardless of how tiny and fragile and sometimes a little bit messy that they look like, whatever they look like, it does something to your heart. It just opens it up. It just opens it up. Now, heart is connected to every organ in our body. So it presences us in the now. With a newborn, you are stationed in the now. Like literally, no kidding, you are stationed in the now. So that's one piece that excited me, that it stations us in the now and it opens up our hearts. The other thing, which some of you are very aware of, the study that I'm engaged in, which is how babies learn. So if we are our mother and we birth ourselves every single day, we have an opportunity to really own up to our own prowess, our own capacity to learn like a baby does, which is like it has this infinite ability to comprehend, connect the dots. We don't teach the baby to suckle. We don't teach the baby to roll. We don't teach the baby to stretch its arms and stuff, or to sit down or to crawl. They do it without like sans language or without necessarily being handheld. They figured it out. Like I see my little one, learned to sit and fell down and then decided he was going to try another way. We didn't sit and teach it. We just held the space that, okay, he's this old and he's going to be sitting down at this point. It wasn't bothered whether we expected it to sit down or not. It was going to do it in its own time. So if we are our mother and we birth ourselves every single day, We are acknowledging our own infinite capacity to absorb and learn and connect the dots. We have our heart open. So we are stationed in the now. There's another wonderful facet of a newborn. It is the age of the soul, which is infinite, which is unstoppable, which is indestructible. So if you accept that you are your mother, because you are birthing yourself every single day, then you own up to being this newborn, you are the age of the soul. You completely presence the fact that you are a soul being having a human experience, but you are a soul being. So everything that upsets you or drags you down is a human experience. You don't become, the angry one or the upset one. You remain a soul being that is intriguingly examining the human experience it's having. And you are infinitely loved. You have to say nothing. Just be you. The newborn does not require to put on a makeup, doesn't even need to have any clothes. It doesn't even need to smile, because they don't at the time when they're newborn. It just is. And people's hearts are open, just gushing out love. Because what are they loving on? Not necessarily this little physical thing. The love is emanating from the truth of the presence of a soul being in its truth. And you are the birther of that soul being. And if you have been a mother yourself, then you know when your newborn came forth. You may have been traumatized with the journey of that. Regardless, you're so present to every little experience that you are having in your body at that time, but also every little experience that this newborn is having. So there is great presence that you also gift yourself with once you understand this concept. So now I was ready to look at, okay, so what are the 7 forms of mother? And I have to say, I was intrigued, I was curious, I was excited to know about it, realizing that mothering instinct that I had, is very alive and kicking. And now I apply it to myself. And sure enough, I own up that, okay, I am this newborn every single day. So let's look at the first form of mother, which is a friend. So if you look at a friend is loyal. They accept you for who you are during good times and bad times. And really good friends are also honest. They're honest enough to tell you when you're not being a good friend yourself. So a mother, one of the forms of a mother is the form of a friend. So, when you have friends, so I'm just checking whether you can hear me, because it looks like my screen is frozen. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Mynoo, at times, but you're frozen.
Okay. So I will just continue talking, even if the image gets frozen.
Yes, continue.
Okay. Okay. So, um, I recall growing up. I recall growing up and my mother saying to me, I am your mother and I'm also your best friend. So you can tell me anything. And I thought, oh, I'm not doing that. The first form of a mother is a friend. And it's so true, yeah, it's not that I was very, very clean and very, very good all the time. I was quite a rebel, as some of you might have read in the B book. And my mom remained totally loyal and accepted me for who I was. Good times, bad times, she was there, no matter what. And she told me what was so every time that I was not as I was expected to behave. So, I always like to, when I receive a new understanding like this, I always like to engage with, how does this practically apply to me? I do have a son. So where am I? How am I? What were those situations where he engaged in things that were unacceptable? And what was my response to that? I was very curious to understand that if you don't necessarily have to have a child, you have the mother in you because you birth yourself every day. Which means, whether a man, a woman, a child, anybody and everybody has the mother vibe in them. Then understanding where I remain loyal and accepting of my son, regardless of whatever he may have engaged in, and what were my triggers. Did I just not get disturbed at all by what he was up to? What was really going on there? So I examined all of that. And I found that, there were tough times to accept what he had done. I remained loyal to him, that he is my son. I remained completely resolute about the stand I had taken for how this person is going to show up in the world. And that is how the friend aspect played itself out. I met some of the Beyond meditators yesterday, and one of the things that they were talking about was, there was a point in my son's life, I think when he was about 11, he just switched. He stopped calling me mom and he started calling me Mynoo. And his whole thing was that you are more a friend to me. And I see all these moms that everybody else calls them their mothers. And I see that there's a lot of control that comes in. And yeah, you do command me to do certain things and you do discipline me, but you also listen. So you're more a Mynoo to me than you are mom. I mean, that was his explanation for it. I quite like being called mom, so I didn't miss that, So I see that this form of a friend exists. Then how cool is it, right? You wake up every day and you have your friend with you when you wake up. And you can be that newborn child, being stationed in this infinite capacity of your soul presence. So the second form of mother, I'm just going to, before I talk about the second form, I'm just going to switch my video off and switch it back on again to see if it actually comes back on. Okay. So the second form of mother is a teacher. And sure enough, those of us who've been a mother, we have been a teacher of our children. And if you could really examine who is a teacher, what do teachers do? What is their role? They help students to learn, and they do that by imparting knowledge to them. And sometimes they set up situations in which students can implement that knowledge, and that way they learn more effectively. Teachers do have a complex set of roles, and they vary. These roles vary from one society to another, from one educational level to another. So if you just examine this definition of a teacher and you look at the role of a mother, first of all, as a mother, for you to be imparting knowledge, you own the fact that you do have some knowledge. You're not inundated with data all the time. You're not just bombarding, lots of information at the student. You have actually understood what it is that you are going to impart as knowledge by practically, implementing it yourself and developing some form of expertise in it. And then you go impart that to your children. And there is a way in which you teach. There's a patience that comes with it. There's a coaching style that you adopt. A teacher is not a mentor who points in certain directions. A teacher is more of someone who's imparting this knowledge. Remember, I talk about the journey from data to information to knowledge to wisdom to a knowing. A teacher is not stuffing wisdom, at the child, at the student. A teacher is helping the student learn by imparting knowledge. It's the implementation of that knowledge. The teacher creates scenarios which encourage the student to implement. And that is how knowledge becomes wisdom for the student. And it is up to the student to convert that into a knowing. This was very interesting. I saw when I examined my own role as a mother with this lens that, okay, I'm now examining the teacher form that I adopt. And I certainly saw there were many times it was very commanding. You do this because I say so. It wasn't a teacher attitude. And a lot of the times I was a teacher. And there were times where I wanted to be, cool and accepted when he was in his teenage years. So, giving him the space, where I actually was abdicating my role as a teacher. And, he did feel that I wasn't really creating the boundaries at those times. But what is interesting to me is understanding that the moment you accept that you are a mother, you do have this role as a teacher. Sure enough, examining how well you have implemented this role by looking at a child that you may have given birth to and you may have reared, it helps you understand how you behave as a teacher. The reality is, if you are your mother and you are birthing yourself every single day, then this whole idea of beating yourself up because you might have made a mistake and just not accepting yourself because it really should be a certain way, or using phrases like, oh, I'm not really good at that and stuff. It's okay, you can acknowledge it, but giving yourself labels, can you imagine what kind of a teacher you would be if you just kept giving labels to your students? This one's a loudmouth, this one's a waste of time, this one's whatever. So really understanding that role of a teacher and knowing that as the moment you accept yourself as a mother, you may be a man here listening to this, you are, and this is a pearl of wisdom. You also birth yourself every single day. So the mother exists in you. And before you sit back and analyze and, criticize or whatever it is that you wish to, or really appreciate your mother, understand that she actually has fulfilled on these roles. May not have done it to absolute perfection, but these roles are natural. They come to you the moment you accept you are a mother. I totally get this whole idea that, there's a complex set of roles that are fulfilled by teachers, and they vary from culture to culture. Even looking at me as a mother of my son in England, in India, in Bali, in Indonesia, in Singapore, in Utah, there was adapting that was taking place as this child was shifting his own environments. And I remained in that space as a teacher. At the same time that I was being a mother to him, I was being a mother to me too. So give yourself, teachers do have natural patience with their students. And they do reprimand where that's necessary. I mean, what's super exciting to me as I'm going through this with you, looking at it as a pearl of wisdom, examining these different forms, is the first knowing that I have gotten that I am my mother. I birth myself every single day. I perform these 7 roles. These 7 forms are in me. Understanding them, I can choose to be that, put my attention on that on any particular day. Just imagine the level of compassion, the level of love that you will have for yourself, coming from yourself. To transform every relationship you have had with other humans, with other living beings, just because you relate to yourself in this deeply fulfilling way, both as the newborn, that is in its infinite presence as a soul being, and as the mother. Truly enriching. The third form of a mother is that a mother is an accountability buddy. So as an accountability buddy, there are 2 pieces to it. A buddy who holds you to account. So she's a companion and a partner. And she's an accountability partner. Someone who wants to understand your vision and goals and is committed to helping you achieve them. And a good accountability partner will call you out when you're holding back and question you when you're not showing up with focus and the purpose that you're committed to. I totally see that. I have a business collective called the Federation 100, and my son and his business are very much a part of that. And we have our mother-son dynamics, and he's still very much a part of that. And my God, I'm an accountability buddy for him. But I also see how he is an accountability buddy for me. What I didn't understand was that I just thought we just have a very interesting relationships. But actually, he is a mother as much as I am, because he too births himself every single day. Just because I'm older in age doesn't give me a different status to him. I am as much a mother as he is. It really opened me up to this accountability buddy part. It gave me permission to be an accountability buddy for him and allowed me to receive him as someone who is, rather than throwing a tantrum at times, is actually simply holding me to account. It actually transformed our relationship to our word. We don't get, I've stopped being flippant about it. Now you imagine when you get that you are your mother and you are your own accountability buddy, it immediately stops you from spinning. One, you know that you have a companion and a partner in you, and that you hold yourself to account, which means you give yourself the patience and the openness to understand and reflect and design your own vision, your own goals, your own resolutions, and you are totally committed to helping you achieve them as a mother. You don't need somebody else to call you out when you're holding back or question you when you're not showing up with focus. You do that for yourself. It brings a very interesting structure that you apply on you. You don't have to rebel against somebody else commanding you or trying to control you. Accountability is not about control. It's about taking a stand. An accountability buddy's role isn't to pull you out and point out that you are not doing what you said you can be counted on. It really is about helping you get that focus back. As a companion and partner in you realizing your vision, you realizing your resolve. It was so beautiful. A mother, one of the forms of a mother is an accountability buddy. My gosh, how wonderful. What's interesting as you're listening to this is you can think about it, I don't think my mother did that. I don't think I really had a mother who had all of these forms, maybe one or two of those. You can sit there listening to it like that. And that's your prerogative. And you can sit here listening to it saying, okay, my mother it was or is wherever she is, I am my own mother. And okay, I didn't realize that I do have this form. And now that I understand it, let's have a go. Let's have a look at implementing this form on myself. So my invitation to you is, rather than listening to this, being judgmental, listen to it as if you are actually going to implement it yourself in the mother vibe that is a part of your truth. This accountability buddy part, because accountability is a really big aspect. It's truly one of the habits of an inspired leader, which is a very important part of the work I do with leaders in business and in other organizations. So I get accountability. When I looked at accountability and I examined it for myself, I always do it with myself, well before you all get to hear about these things. I use the full spectrum way of examining the lay of the land, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, socially, and environmentally. And I did it in the context of me and my son. And then I did it in the context of me with myself. It was a beautiful exercise. Not everything that showed up was beautiful, by the way. There were some really ugly, ugly aspects that showed up where I wasn't operating like an accountability buddy. I was operating as making you wrong person, or as wanting to really demonstrate I was right. It didn't take long to make that switch. The more you understand what's going on, the much faster it is to actually rectify the situation. The fourth form of a mother is that she is a guide and a confidant. She is a guide and a confidant. So let's examine this guide and confidant. What's a guide? What does a guide actually do? A guide guides you. And it guides you by leading the way for a person, or to control the movement of a course. And that could be for a vehicle, for a project, for, an animal like shepherds, the shepherd's dogs, they guide the sheep in a certain way. Or as I noticed in Bali, you have ducks that are used to plow the rice fields. And who is the dog equivalent for these ducks that guides them from, okay, enough on this farm, time to move forward? It's a crane. So you have a crane that guides these ducks to move from one field to another. A mother, the other role of a guide is, sometimes a guide uses physical action. Like when you have a tour guide, they have an umbrella or a stick or whatever, so there's a physical action that is done. And the intention of the physical action is very clear. It is to guide, not to threaten, not to reprimand. And sometimes they supervise, sometimes they instruct. And the combination of a guide and a confidant, who is a confidant? Someone you can share a secret or a private matter, trusting them that they're not going to go about repeating it to others. So a guide and a confidant, my God, what a beautiful form of a mother. Whether you have done it with your child when the child was young, or even now, doesn't matter. You are your mother. You can adopt this form anytime. become a leader for yourself. Lead your way, and so that you are moving forward in a controlled movement. Give yourself your own pattern interrupts, which is like the physical action equivalent, where a tour guide, you may be completely immersed in front of a painting, and then you hear the sound of your tour guide, and then you suddenly see this umbrella and everybody walking behind this person, and you're still immersed. Okay, there's a physical action that's taken place. It's time to move forward. You can do that for yourself. You can create that for yourself. That way you interrupt your own patterns. What a beautiful way to really own your form as a mother and work with this particular form to shift some habits that you've been wanting to shift for a long time. And then you adopt the role of supervising and instructing yourself from time to time. You don't have to wait for anybody else to do it. And you can be the person where you are able to acknowledge everything that may have been a secret that you put in your own closet. You can really own up to it. It doesn't have to be unsaid or hidden anymore. Own the full complement of all of you. That's when you are being your mother. Now you can at any point in time, if you have a child, and a child may be an actual person, or it could be your project, or it could be your hobby, whatever it is, at any point in time, you can say, okay, I'm really going to bring this form of a mother forward. Doesn't mean the other forms disappear. They are still there. But there's one that is leading the way. And you can be a guide and confidant at that point. It's your choice. I love the combination of a guide and a confidant as a form of mother. And I totally saw that in my own mother. She truly recognized that if she commanded me, I had a tendency to rebel. But if she guided me, it's as if she opened up openness, and I would receive, and I would make my own choices. And as a confidant, which she became, a little bit later on in life, I knew that if I shared something with her, it wasn't going to go anywhere else outside of that. So when I first experienced that switch from my corporate life to experiencing this spiritual awakening, when I first went to Bali for 3 weeks, and I started writing, and all this wisdom started coming out, and I was writing stuff with words and sentences that I never ever wrote that way before. She was the one that I shared it with. Because a few things that I shared on my Facebook posts, I had like a barrage of comments. There used to be voice messages that people mostly used at that time, or text messages. That, what's happened to you? Are you all right? Don't make any decisions in this state. But my mom truly received me, And I really saw that she was being a guide and confidant. That is one thing that she truly was. And it is when I accepted her as a guide and confidant, I actually accepted her as a friend. It just felt odd for me My son goes the other way. He accepts me as a friend. That's how he began at the age of 11. And now I can be his guide and confidant. But it's quite useful to examine it for yourself. And in this role, I literally looked at, okay, I am my mother. Where has this guide and confidant piece showed up? I saw it showed up in different projects I did, in different, relationships I chose to step forward with. And there are many nuances to this. The key thing to get is an understanding. The role of a guide is to lead the way, so that there's a controlled movement forward on a particular course. And there is a physical action that is taken that supports the supervision and instruction. It isn't bullying, it isn't commanding, it is guiding. And a guide and confidant together, how amazing, right? Your guide is also your confidant with whom you can share a secret and know that it's not going to go anywhere other than just this person who's going to guide you to move forward in a controlled fashion. I mean, when you take this up for yourself, this particular form, and you are working with journaling and stuff, and you really examine yourself, it's an amazing experience journaling what has occurred for yourself. So practice this. I mean, this is one pearl of wisdom where you don't have to go sequentially. You can literally go, okay, today I'm going to really examine this whole guide and confident part. And I would say, don't just do it all over one day. You just say, okay, for the next 10 days, this is the form that is going to lead. It's the most amazing anti-aging device that you have. When you own up, I am my own mother. I birth myself every single day. And I'm now going to really play with, understand, implement this information that I have learned about these different forms, convert this into knowledge, and really work with it, examine it as that knowledge becomes wisdom. Your own vitality starts to transform. And your vibrational age reduces quite dramatically. I met somebody yesterday, actually, and I was meeting her after like 2.5 years, ever since we began Beyond Meditation. And she saw me briefly at an event in January 2020, and then lockdowns happened. And then she was seeing me in person yesterday. And she just said to me, it's like, she kept staring a lot, and she just said, it's like a lot about you has transformed. You just seem younger. And she was like, talking about the texture of my skin and stuff. I know it has transformed, but it was amazing how, and I actually think I have been my own mother and implementing these different forms in a very concerted way over the last 2.5 years. Because it wasn't a slowdown, it actually was a lockdown. For all of us have experienced it. It literally took us into ourselves. Whether you may have done it consciously or not, each one of us around the world made our own choice on how we are going to react and respond to this. A powerful gift from Mr. Crown for all of us. So this reduction in vibrational age happens as a guide and confidant when you implement this with yourself. I have to keep looking at the time. Okay. This fifth form Was an interesting one. Again, I mean, I don't edit the phrases that come. And this one was a soul companion, a little bit more than a soulmate. So, a soulmate is a person who is perfectly suited to another in temperament and really resembles the other person in attitudes and beliefs. A mother also has this form of being a soul companion. And sometimes when I was growing up and I was like this ambitious go-getter, highly academic, just in a race to be the best. And my mom saying, we're going to meditate for 10 minutes every morning. To me, it was like, she just has a different temperament. She's too slow. They're just trying to slow me down. It's so funny, really. And it wasn't that at all. She truly was suited to my temperament. Because I was such a sprinter, like in terms of, achievement, never took time to even enjoy the achievement. It never bothered me at all. I mean, I don't ever say that, oh, my mom and dad never appreciated me. I think they probably did a lot. I just kept moving forward. Because I didn't want to stop and stare at all. There was a serious issue with me being comfortable with my own presence at the time. So it was so much easier to be outwardly focused. We all go through those phases, Introspection often happens a bit later on. However, the young generation, the millennials and the ones that are younger than that even, they introspect all the time. But when you know that it is a soul companion, I'm going to turn my video off and on again because it did work last time. So it's just paused. Okay. The bottom line is, it isn't about temperament. It isn't about, my mom resembling and being similar to my attitudes or beliefs. It isn't about any of that. The soul companion is quite beautiful. Having somebody that is there and connected to you at a soul level is quite special. When I did the lay of the land analysis here, and I took not just my son, I also took, because I was, and I still am, a great entrepreneur, converting ideas into business, converting ideas into a real project, or converting ideas into impact. I have quite a unique mastery in that. But I took each one of those and then examined the soul companion way in which I deal with situations that I have birthed. There is a natural empathy, there is compassion naturally, and there is a steadfast rigor and discipline and discernment with which I move forward to fulfill on what the intention is. With my son, it was that he lives up and realizes his own potential, lives up to and realizes his own potential. And I've always held that stand with him as a soul companion. Knowing what I know now, I know what his unique gift is. I know his innate vibration. And there are many times he doesn't operate that way. But as a soul companion, I hold the faith that he will, and I don't beat him to pulp that he's not. But I don't hold back either. I give him a solution rather than, there you go again, not doing this. And there are times where I do in frustration say, there you go again, it's not mine to deal with. You've got to process it yourself. I'm going to move on at my end. But I'm able to talk that way because I know we are soul companions. And I have exactly that approach with projects. With what my resolution is, which is humans and humanity, experiencing, expecting, and accepting miracles as their norm. And doing so with Jago, joy, ease, and grace, omnipresent. I'm a soul companion to that project for all humans and humanity. Yeah, I am perfectly suited to that temperament. I proactively work within myself to really understand the attitudes and beliefs that one would have if that is how they chose to live their life. And I implement it for myself. But there is a compassionate way in which I create a container and hold that for people to realize it for themselves. So I don't go around, giving lectures about you do this and you don't do this. I share vulnerably the good, the bad, the ugly, and the beautiful from my life and how I dealt with it. And I do it quite openly because that enables people to relate to what I'm saying and know that this other experience is as real and as possible for them as it became for me. It's coming from a soul companion form of being a mother. The sixth form is a comrade. A mother is a comrade. You are your comrade. You know how we sabotage ourselves a lot? That's not a comrade way of operating. And it happens. Once you are your mother and you adopt this form because it exists in you naturally, very different experience of how you live your life. Who's a comrade? A comrade is a person who shares in your activities, in your occupation. They're a companion, they're an associate or a friend. They're a fellow member of your fraternity. So that's where, so imagine you showing up as your comrade. What an enriching experience that is. Now think about it. If you are holding this mother vibe and you show up at work, you show up at a dinner with a friend, you show up having a difficult conversation with someone you care about or someone you don't care about, but has been in your life. And you have that as a comrade, even if you are going to be parting ways. Just imagine, visualize what that would look like. Remember all those times when you've had a difficult conversation with your child growing up. I remember many difficult conversations my mother had with me. Yeah, I get it. She was totally a comrade. And my son said something very interesting the other day. He says, Mom, what I've discerned is we talk and I can share anything with you and you can share anything with me. And we still talk, we continue, even though we have our difficult moments and stuff. But you know why that is? It's because you're relatable. So I like doing that. A comrade is naturally relatable, otherwise they're not a comrade. You moved on, you've taken different paths. So many times when we feel conflicted within ourselves, it's like, you know, your higher self and your human form have parted ways. Camaraderie is gone. That's when you bring in this form of you being the mother who births herself, who births you every single day. This form of a comrade naturally shows up. When you don't feel good about yourself and you say all sorts of stuff, subconsciously even to yourself, it gives you permission to do that with others. You don't honor your own worthiness. It always begins with that. You don't honor the worthiness in others. You don't honor the worthiness of our planet. And you devour it because you started devouring yourself. So comrade is a natural form. I mean, just have a go. I mean, it's like, okay, it's 22nd of April, 8th of May is Mother's Day. You've got a few days to work with these for yourself. Just make it the most phenomenal Mother's Day for you. And celebrate it with your offsprings if you have them, or celebrate it with yourself. Really examine and bring these forms out for yourself. The seventh form is a co-creator. A mother is a co-creator, someone who creates something jointly with you. A co-creator, yes, they are a comrade, and they're a comrade in you co-creating how you choose to live your life. Sure, she births you, and then she immediately becomes a co-creator. So you are your mother, you birth yourself, and you're a co-creator, not a saboteur. So examine this. Where have you been a co-creator in your life? Where have you been a saboteur? What triggers the saboteur attitude? And what can you do about that? Because your natural propensity is to be a co-creator. I mean, I literally can write chapter and verse and have infinite levels of numbers of examples just from my own life. And I mean, I do this journey into miracles with people where, you know, they really rebirth themselves, reinvent themselves. So there are so many examples of each one of these that I could talk about over and over again. It was amazing. You know, I wasn't able to take like a month off and work on this. I did this examination of these different forms by taking a segment of time, and then I started enacting these forms. But first, I wanted to examine them to anchor them in my conscious reality. Really remove the blocks, release repeat patterns, and then I was able to land in my mastery as I implemented them. And then I started looking at different devices and ways in which I could be in the fullness of Mother as a pearl of wisdom with joy, ease, and grace omnipresent. You can go on the same journey. You know, take it up. We have Mother's Day coming up. You know, let's share in our group what's showing up for you. You know, let's even share, this is the form I'm working with within myself. And anchor it in your reality. Over to you, Catherine.
Thank you, Mynoo. Oh, that was lovely. Wow, I think I speak for all of us when I say that I look forward to owning and mastering the mother of myself. Easier said than done, perhaps, but life is all about the practice, isn't it? Thank you all for joining. Thank you, Mynoo. This is going to be a fun few weeks as we work on this, as we play with this, I should say. There's no work involved. What a beautiful Pearl of Wisdom. And we look forward to seeing you right here next Thursday for our next Pearl of Wisdom. Love to all of you, and thank you.